For more than a century, people have stood before the stone cities of Mesa Verde and asked the wrong question. Who were these mysterious cliff dwellers? The ruins seemed too dramatic, too vertical, too improbable to belong to ordinary human beings. A city hidden beneath rock, towers in shadow, tiny doorways, silent kivas, empty rooms suspended above the canyon floor. And so the myths began. A vanished people, a lost civilization, a mystery no one could solve. But what if the greatest mystery was never the ruins? What if the real mystery was why so many people found it easier to believe in disappearance than in survival? Because Mesa Verde was not built by a vanished race. It was built by the Ancestral Pueblo people. And the story of these walls did not end when people left them behind. To understand the wrong story, you have to understand the power of first impressions.
Mesa Verde looks impossible.
The alcoves hide entire villages in stone. The walls seem to grow out of the cliff itself. Cliff Palace alone contained around 150 rooms and 23 kivas, with space for about 100 people. Across the larger Mesa Verde landscape, hundreds of cliff dwellings and thousands of archaeological sites still remain. To later outsiders, this did not look like a familiar American story. So instead of asking, how did these people live? Many asked, who could have built this? The ruins were treated as a puzzle detached from living people. Admired, romanticized, misunderstood. And that misunderstanding did real damage. Because once you turn a place like Mesa Verde into myth, you stop seeing it as someone's home. For generations, the most common version of the story was simple. The builders were gone. Gone from the cliffs. Gone from history. Gone from the land. But that story says more about the people telling it than the people being described. It reflects a habit deeply rooted in colonial thinking, the habit of separating prehistory from history, as if indigenous peoples existed in the past but not in the present. As if a people could build one of North America's most extraordinary landscapes and then somehow vanish from the human record. But Mesa Verde does not belong to a vanished people. It belongs to a continuing story. The builders moved. Their descendants remained. Their traditions continued. Their relationship to this place endured. The wrong story turned migration into disappearance. And that changed everything. The truth is not smaller than the myth. It is greater. Mesa Verde's cliff dwellings were built by the Ancestral Pueblo people, farming communities whose lives were rooted in planning, architecture, trade, art, ceremony, and adaptation. These were not isolated cave dwellers hiding from the world. They were part of a sophisticated cultural landscape that developed over centuries. The cliffs were only one chapter. Before the famous alcove villages, people had lived for generations on the mesa tops. They built pit houses, then masonry villages. Then, in the late 1190s, many moved into natural cliff alcoves and continued building, repairing, and remodeling rooms for nearly a century. That timeline matters, because it replaces the idea of sudden mystery with the reality of long-term human skill. Part of the misunderstanding came from the cliffs themselves. Cliff dwellings look dramatic even now. To modern eyes, they feel remote and almost theatrical. But to the people who built them, they were practical, strategic, and meaningful. The overhanging sandstone offered shelter from rain and snow. The alcoves gave shade in summer and protection in winter. They created defensible positions and made use of the landscape in ways that were both intelligent and beautiful. And still, outsiders kept treating them like fantasy. Not homes. Not communities. Not evidence of adaptation, just mystery. But mystery was never the point. Human decision-making was. One of the most important corrections to the wrong story comes from descendant voices. On the National Park Service page for Cliff Palace, T.J. Atzi of Laguna Pueblo offers a powerful reflection. Even though people physically moved away, the spirits of the ancestors are still here. If you stop and listen, you can hear children laughing, women talking, dogs barking, turkeys gobbling, drums beating, songs rising, cooking fires burning. That quote matters because it restores what myth removes: sound, memory, community, presence. Mesa Verde is not only a site to be measured. It is a place to be respected. Once you understand that, the ruins stop feeling empty. Even the story of leaving has often been told the wrong way. People say the cliff dwellers disappeared. But archaeologists and descendant perspectives point to something far more human and far more understandable. By the late 1200s, life in the Mesa Verde region had become harder. Archaeologists point to changing environmental conditions, resource strain, population pressure, and a severe drought from AD 1276 to 1299 that likely caused food shortages. Tension and conflict may have followed. In the mid-1200s, migration south had already begun. By the end of the 1200s, most people had moved away. But migration is not disappearance. It is a decision, a difficult one, painful one, a survival-driven one. This is where the wrong story fully breaks apart. The people of Mesa Verde did not vanish. According to the National Park Service, when their ancestors migrated from the region, they established new villages or joined existing communities along the Rio Grande Valley, the Little Colorado River drainages, and the Hopi mesas. They carried with them architecture, farming knowledge, belief systems, memory, and identity. Today, Pueblo and Hopi peoples are identified as the direct descendants of those who built and lived in Mesa Verde. More than that, Mesa Verde remains spiritually meaningful. Crow Canyon notes that Pueblo people still make pilgrimages to the region for religious purposes and to visit their ancestors. These are not distant ruins to them. They are family places. When we use the wrong words, we tell the wrong story. If we say vanished civilization, we erase descendants. If we say mysterious builders, we hide real people. If we talk about Mesa Verde as though it belongs only to the past, we ignore the communities who still carry it in the present. That is why terminology matters. The respectful term used by the National Park Service is Ancestral Pueblo people. Not because language alone can repair history, but because language is where repair begins. The point is not political correctness. The point is accuracy. And accuracy in a story like this is a form of respect. So what is the right story of Mesa Verde? It is not a story of disappearance. It is a story of achievement. A story of architecture shaped by generations of knowledge. A story of people adapting to a harsh and changing landscape. A story of migration under pressure. And a story of continuity that still lives in descendant communities today. UNESCO calls Mesa Verde a significant and living link between Pueblo people's past and present way of life. That may be the most important correction of all. Mesa Verde is not a monument to a dead world. It is evidence of a living one. A place where stone still carries memory. A place where history must be told with more humility. A place that asks us to replace myth with listening. If this story changed the way you see Mesa Verde, subscribe, share this documentary, and leave a comment with the one myth about history you think should be corrected next. Because the wrong story lasted a long time, but the truth is stronger.